Chapter 8 of The People of the Abyss. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Peter Yearsley. The People of the Abyss by Jack London. Chapter 8. The Carter and the Carpenter. The Carter, with his clean-cut face, chin-beard, and shaved upper lip, I should have taken in the United States for anything from a master workman to a well-to-do farmer. The Carpenter, well, I should have taken him for a carpenter. He looked it, lean and wiry, with shrewd, observant eyes, and hands that had grown twisted to the handles of tools through 47 years' work at the trade. The chief difficulty with these men was that they were old, and that their children, instead of growing up to take care of them, had died. Their years had told on them, and they had been forced out of the whirl of industry by the younger and stronger competitors who had taken their places. These two men, turned away from the casual ward of Whitechapel Workhouse, were bound with me for Poplar Workhouse. Not much of a show, they thought, but to chance it was all that remained to us. It was Poplar or the streets and night. Both men were anxious for a bed, for they were about gone, as they phrased it. The Carter, 58 years of age, had spent the last 3 nights without shelter or sleep, while the Carpenter, 65 years of age, had been out 5 nights. But, oh dear, soft people, full of meat and blood, with white beds and airy rooms waiting you each night, how can I make you know what it is to suffer as you would suffer if you spent a weary night on London's streets? Believe me, you would think 1,000 centuries had come and gone before the east paled into dawn. You would shiver till you were ready to cry aloud with the pain of each aching muscle, and you would marvel that you could endure so much and live. Should you rest upon a bench and your tired eyes close, depend upon it, the policeman would rouse you and gruffly order you to move on. You may rest upon the bench, and benches are few and far between, but if rest means sleep, on you must go, dragging your tired body through the endless streets. Should you, in desperate slyness, seek some forlorn alley or dark passageway and lie down, the omnipresent policeman will rout you out just the same. It is his business to rout you out. It is a law of the powers that be that you shall be routed out. But when the dawn came, the nightmare over, you would hale you home to refresh yourself, and until you died you would tell the story of your adventure to groups of admiring friends. It would grow into a mighty story. Your little 8-hour night would become an Odyssey, and you a Homer. Not so with these homeless ones who walked to Poplar Workhouse with me, and there are 35,000 of them, men and women, in London town this night. Please don't remember it as you go to bed. If you are as soft as you ought to be, you may not rest so well as usual. But for old men of 60, 70, and 80, ill-fed, with neither meat nor blood, to greet the dawn unrefreshed, and to stagger through the day in mad search for crusts, with relentless night rushing down upon them again, and to do this 5 nights and days. Oh dear soft people, full of meat and blood, how can you ever understand? I walked up Mile End Road between the Carter and the Carpenter. Mile End Road is a wide thoroughfare cutting the heart of East London, and there were tens of thousands of people abroad on it. I tell you this so that you may fully appreciate what I shall describe in the next paragraph. As I say, we walked along, and when they grew bitter and cursed the land, I cursed with them, cursed as an American waif would curse, stranded in a strange and terrible land. And as I tried to lead them to believe, and succeeded in making them believe, they took me for a seafaring man, who had spent his money in riotous living, lost his clothes (no unusual occurrence with seafaring men ashore), and was temporarily broke while looking for a ship. This accounted for my ignorance of English ways in general, and casual wards in particular, and my curiosity concerning the same. The Carter was hard put to keep the pace at which we walked. He told me that he had eaten nothing that day. But the carpenter, lean and hungry, his grey and ragged overcoat flapping mournfully in the breeze, swung on in a long and tireless stride, which reminded me strongly of the plains wolf or coyote. Both kept their eyes upon the pavement as they walked and talked, and every now and then one or the other would stoop and pick something up, never missing the stride the while. I thought it was cigar and cigarette stumps they were collecting, and for some time took no notice. Then I did notice. From the slimy, spittle-drenched sidewalk they were picking up bits of orange peel, apple skin, and grape stems, and they were eating them. The pits of green-gage plums they cracked between their teeth for the kernels inside. They picked up stray bits of bread the size of peas, apple cores so black and dirty one would not take them to be apple cores. And these things these two men took into their mouths, and chewed them and swallowed them. And this between 6 and 7 o'clock in the evening of August the 20th, year of our Lord 1902, in the heart of the greatest, wealthiest, and most powerful empire the world has ever seen. These two men talked. They were not fools, they were merely old, and naturally their guts a reek with pavement offal. They talked of bloody revolution. They talked as anarchists, fanatics, and madmen would talk, and who shall blame them? In spite of my 3 good meals that day, and the snug bed I could occupy if I wished, and my social philosophy, and my evolutionary belief in the slow development and metamorphosis of things, in spite of all this, I say, I felt impelled to talk rot with them, or hold my tongue. Poor fools! Not of their sort are revolutions bred, and when they are dead and dust, which will be shortly, other fools will talk bloody revolution, as they gather offal from the spittle-drenched sidewalk along Mile End Road to Poplar Workhouse. Being a foreigner and a young man, the carter and the carpenter explained things to me and advised me. Their advice, by the way, was brief and to the point. It was to get out of the country. "As fast as God'll let me," I assured them. "I'll hit only the high places, till you won't be able to see my trail for smoke." They felt the force of my figures rather than understood them, and they nodded their heads approvingly. "Actually make a man a criminal against his will," said the carpenter. "Here I am, old, younger men taking my place, my clothes getting shabbier and shabbier, and making it harder every day to get a job. I go to the casual ward for a bed. Must be there by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, or I won't get in. You saw what happened today. What chance does that give me to look for work? Suppose I do get into the casual ward. Keep me in all day tomorrow, let me out morning of next day. What then? The law says I can't get in another casual ward that night, less than 10 miles distant. Have to hurry and walk to be there in time that day. What chance does that give me to look for a job? Suppose I don't walk. Suppose I look for a job. In no time there's night come, and no bed. No sleep all night. Nothing to eat. What shape am I in the morning to look for work? Got to make up my sleep in the park somehow." The vision of Christ's Church, Spitalfield, was strong on me. And get something to eat. And there I am, old, down, and no chance to get up. "Used to be a toll gate here," said the carter. "Many's the time I've paid my toll here in my carting days." "I've had 3 halfpenny rolls in 2 days," the carpenter announced, after a long pause in the conversation. "2 of them I ate yesterday, and the 3rd to-day," he concluded, after another long pause. "I ain't had anything to-day," said the carter, "and I'm fagged out. My legs is hurting me something fearful." "The roll you get in the Spike is that hard you can't eat it nicely with less than a pint of water," said the carpenter for my benefit, and on asking him what the Spike was, he answered, "The casual ward. It's a cant word, you know." But what surprised me was that he should have the word cant in his vocabulary, a vocabulary that I found was no mean one before we parted. I asked them what I might expect in the way of treatment if we succeeded in getting into the Poplar Workhouse, and between them I was supplied with much information. Having taken a cold bath on entering, I would be given for supper 6 ounces of bread and 3 parts of skilly. 3 parts means 3/4 of a pint, and skilly is a fluid concoction of 3 quarts of oatmeal stirred into 3 buckets and a half of hot water. Milk and sugar, I suppose, and a